In 1925, my great-grandfather Levi traveled through Europe and northern Africa on a self-guided tour of religious architecture. 100 years later, my family and I are retracing his steps on the trip of a lifetime to recreate as many of his photos as we can. But wait, how did we get here? Well, roll back 100 years ago and you'd see my great-grandfather Levi, a fresh graduate from Notre Dame University, settling into the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. There, he met Chloe Wells on a blind date just months before his trip over 3,800 miles across the Atlantic Ocean. While Levi is traveling, they send a lot of letters back and forth. Despite him being Catholic and her being Protestant, they have a situationship documented across several binders worth of letters. And that's not even including his personal travel journal and over 200 photographs. Well, cut to today. My mom, the family genealogist, has sorted all of the letters, researched every place in person, and identified every building photographed. Using her 30 years of research, we planned a romp through Europe to stand where Levi once stood and recreate his photos, 100 years later. There's way too much to cram into one video, so follow my page to hear all about this once-in-a-lifetime journey, and the craziness that went along with it. Hiya! I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. After a day of flying, we have officially landed in Rome, but we don't have time to drop off our bags. We are already off to our first location, Santa Maria Maggiore. My mom and I had only been in the country for 30 minutes when we turned to see security walking all around the basilica. We didn't think anything of it at first. Maybe they were there to stop unruly tourists. But then we saw a cardinal. For those who aren't Catholic, cardinals are a big deal. They are senior clergymen of the church and act as advisors to the Pope. So to see one is not exactly a common occurrence. Next to him was a woman who was clearly important, but my mom and I didn't recognize her. After some Googling, we learned that she was the president of North Macedonia. She was there to have an audience with the Pope, which is something my grandpa Levi did 100 years prior. That's certainly one way to start the trip. Hiya! I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. Well, today, not so much, actually. Levi didn't visit the Pantheon, but it was just too cool not to stop by and see. The original structure was built in 27 BC, but it was later converted into a Christian church in 609 AD. Now it's mostly a tourist spotlight, and it's clear to see why. I mean, it's not every day you see a giant hole in the ceiling. That's intentional. There's even these little holes in the floor for removing rainwater. It's truly a feat of ancient architectural engineering. While the Pantheon was absolutely beautiful, we didn't have any photos to recreate just yet. That would come the next day, when we would visit the world's smallest country, Vatican City. Hiya! I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. Today, we are walking through the walls of Vatican City. At just 0.19 square miles, it is the smallest country and the biggest deal to Catholics, since it's basically the center of our world. It's home to the Pope and one of the largest collections of Renaissance-era art in the world, which I'll cover more tomorrow. Today, I just want to talk about walking into this place, because you stand outside this gargantuan gate, but you don't actually go through it. Instead, you walk into this lobby area before you go onto a balcony overlooking the Vatican Gardens. It is a beautiful overlook and gives such a great view of St. Peter's Dome. From there, we walk into the museum, which has so much in it, it's getting its own video. Hiya! I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. Today we're in the Vatican Museum, one of the largest collections of Renaissance art in the world. First is this hall of marble statues, followed by these intricately woven tapestries and this absolutely gorgeous ceiling. You're gonna notice through this series, I kinda have a thing for ornate ceilings. Next are these murals, which you may recognize, especially this one, the School of Athens. Lastly, there's a section dedicated to more modern art and sculptures depicting Christian iconography. After we walked through the museum, we were led into the Sistine Chapel, which I have no photos or footage of because I follow the rules. Seriously, y'all, if you walk into someone's holy place and they ask you not to take photos, don't take the photos. Seriously. Anyways, on to St. Peter's. Hiya! I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. If you've been following this series for a bit, you might be asking, where's the photo recreation? Well, today's finally the day! We are outside St. Peter's Cathedral in Vatican City, and we have this photo of Levi to recreate on the steps outside. And it's fenced off. This is the closest we could get to recreating his photo. Just a heads up, this is gonna be a repeating motif throughout this series. Apparently there's a lot more restrictions for accessing places than there were 100 years ago. Go figure. But it's okay. We may not have been able to climb those steps, but we're about to climb a whole lot more. Hiya! I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. While we weren't able to recreate Levi's photo on the steps outside of St. Peter's, we were able to get a view that he didn't get 100 years ago. The top of the dome. After passing by the four virtues, prudence, temperance, justice, and fortitude, we made our way up to the roof before going onto the inside of the dome. Y'all, this place is huge. Absolutely gargantuan. Just look at it! And we aren't even at the top. Here's the view from the top. Let me tell you, my fear of heights was not happy. But honestly, 10 out of 10. Would climb again. If you can, do it. Seriously, even if you're scared of heights, it's worth it. Now that we've done the highs of St. Peter's, it's time to go to the lows. See y'all in the crypt! Hiya! I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. The past few days we've been talking about Vatican City, so people expect to see the Vatican Museum or the Dome. But one part of the trip that a lot of people overlook is the crypt. I get why. Death is uncomfortable, but it's so cool! Here's the crypt of Pope Pius XI, who my great-grandpa had an audience with back in 1925. There's also the main area of St. Peter's, which includes 11 domes and several beautiful artworks, including this gigantic mosaic and Michelangelo's Pieta. Yes, that Pieta. There are many like it, but this one's Michelangelo's. Hiya! I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. Much of Levi's journey was charted through letters between him and his situationship, Chloe Wells. Inspired by this, I've been writing poetry over the course of my journey in the style of letters. If you've been following my page for a while, you've likely seen some of these poems over the past couple months. However, since we've been talking about Vatican City the past few days, I wanted to highlight one of the poems I wrote just beyond its walls. To the Bracelet Man outside St. Peter's. I fear you broke the 9th commandment, and though I don't have proof, I do have circumstantial evidence. You claim to be leaving tomorrow to support a newborn in Africa with your wife and new life. You claim that bracelets you gave us were the last of your supply and you needed them gone by tomorrow. You returned, claiming we should pay in exchange for the gift you gave us. Instead, we gave you the bracelets back. I fear you broke the 9th commandment, right outside the pearly gates. I pray that I am wrong. Hiya! I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. Believe it or not, we are officially done with Vatican City. Now, we're on to another basilica Levi notes in his letters, St. Mary of the Angels and Martyrs. On Christmas Day in 1925, Levi came to this basilica, which he comments on in a letter to his mother. In it, he states, quote, "We went to midnight mass at St. Mary of the Angels, which is the church where the royal functions are held. I like the services in St. John's in Green Bay better." The church is built in a part of the Baths of Constantine and dates from the 3rd century, end quote. Here, Levi has his history wrong. It does date from the 3rd century, but these baths were built during the era of Diocletian, Constantine's predecessor. That's not the only thing Levi gets wrong. He continues, stating, quote, "We are getting so used to antique things that they make no impression on us," end quote. Honestly, Levi, I'm still impressed. Hiya! I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. Today we're playing tourist and waking up early to go see Trevi Fountain. Despite being there just past dawn, the crowds were already plentiful, but we were able to get some good photos, including the obligatory tourist in Rome shots. We also partook in the Trevi Fountain coin tradition, where you stand with your back to the fountain and use your right hand to toss the coin over your left shoulder. If you don't look back as you throw it and it lands in the fountain, then you will return to Rome in the future. Honestly, I hope that's true, because I'm really enjoying Rome so far. Hiya! I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. Today we are following another ancestor of mine, Father Geniesse. Father Geniesse was Levi's father's first cousin, making Levi his first cousin once removed. He was in Rome to write and review theological manuscripts. When Levi arrived, Father Geniesse had just published an effective antidote for preventing mixed marriages, which is ironic considering the whole reason Levi is in a situationship is because he is Catholic and Chloe is Protestant. Too bad Levi couldn't read it. It was in Latin. My mom had woken up earlier than me and went to recreate these photos Levi took of Father Geniesse. At breakfast, she told me of the bane of her existence: doorways. This is Father Geniesse's door, this is the door next to it, and this shot required my mom to basically be on the ground in order to get the angle right. Turns out Father Geniesse is a lot shorter than he looks. She was also able to recreate 2 more shots, with the first being at the stairs to the Villa Colonna. The second photo was taken outside the Quirinal Palace on Quirinal Hill, one of the 7 hills of Rome. Hiya! I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. Yesterday we were walking around Rome to recreate some photos of Father Geniesse. While walking around, I came across these golden stones in the pathway. Each is engraved with the names of people who were massacred during World War II in concentration camps. Here, 4 people are remembered: Julius Sussman and Ludwig Wolfgang and Susanna Pollack. They were all taken to Auschwitz in October of 1943 and were murdered just 5 days after their capture. I never got to meet them, but I still wanted to write a poem for them for the same reason these gold cobblestones were put here: to make sure they're remembered. Dear Julius Sussman and the Pollack family, they say all roads lead to Rome, but just as all roads lead towards a place, they also lead away. Cobblestones turn into dirt roads, turn into train tracks, turn into prison camps, turn into war crimes, turn into assassinations, turn into golden cobblestones. Monsters took you away. But just as all roads lead away from a place, they say all roads lead to home. Hiya! I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. Did you know that there are Roman ruins you can walk around for free outside of the Roman Forum? Just beyond the Forum, there are several ruins clustered together, including the Portico of Octavia, the Marcello Theater, and the temples of Apollo Sociano and Bellona. We happened to find these completely by accident as we were looking for a good breakfast place before heading to the Forum. Also, while I didn't take any photos, my mom and I noticed that several streets were getting closed off around us. Gladly, we were able to cross the street and head towards the Roman Forum before they blocked off the road entirely. Wonder what that was about. Hiya! I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. Today we're in the Roman Forum, which was basically the heart of the Roman Empire for literal centuries. My mom and I had to decide if we were doing the Forum and the Colosseum, but we ultimately decided to just get the Forum plus tickets instead for the same price. And boy, am I glad we splurged on the tickets. While the normal Forum tickets just get you in, the Forum Plus tickets give you access to areas that are actively being excavated. This is, and please forgive my pronunciation, the Aula Isiaca and the Loggia Mattei, which is covered in 1st century BC frescoes. There's also the House of Augustus, which was the first imperial palace built on Palatine Hill and was home to one of Rome's most famous emperors. You can only enter this area with a guided tour, which my mom and I happened to walk by just minutes before their tour in English. Lastly, there's Santa Maria Antiqua, but that one's getting a video of its own because it was my favorite. I'll be honest, we just kind of stumbled our way around for 8 hours, around every ruin as we followed along with Levi's notes. That's what took us to this ledge overlooking the Colosseum, which, in my opinion, is the best place to get your tourist shots. Here's when we noticed a lot of cyclists on the road that had been closed off in the morning. It appeared to be some sort of sports event, but we wouldn't learn what it was until much later. Hiya! I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. Standing just beyond the Colosseum, my mom and I scanned through our notes from Levi's travel to see if he had anything to say. Back around Christmas of 1925, Levi was here with his friends walking back to his hotel when they ran into 200 German pilgrims on their way into the Colosseum with candles. They followed them inside, where the Germans sang hymns and held a mass in German. Several of them even kissed the ground to remember the thousands of Christian martyrs that died there. Levi described the scene stating, quote, "The moon shone down on these Catholics who had come from Germany to make the pilgrimage, and the prayers and devotion of these people impressed me more than any other religious ceremony I have seen." End quote. We're visiting in May, so there will be no Christmas Mass here anytime soon. I wonder if people still do that pilgrimage, though. Maybe Trevi Fountain was right, and I'll be back before I even know it. Hiya! I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. You know what I wasn't expecting to see in the Roman Forum? Gucci. But here we are, in a beautiful display of fashion in the middle of antiquity. Several high-fashion brands, including Dolce & Gabbana and Prada, teamed up together to make these Bird of Paradise-inspired outfits as part of the Kaleidoscope Visions art exhibit. Why is it in the middle of the Roman Forum? I'll be honest, I still don't know, but they're so beautiful that I'm just gonna let the art speak for itself for a minute. I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. A few episodes ago, I mentioned that Santa Maria Antiqua was gonna get its own episode. Well, here we are. This 6th century imperial chapel is covered in Byzantine frescoes depicting the first martyrs of the church. In some side chapels, they use video projections to fill in the missing pieces of the art, which is a cool intersection of science, technology, and history. Tomorrow I'm going to be posting a full video that's just one of these video projections in its full glory, because it is honestly an ethereal experience I wish more people got to see. I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. After spending 8 hours in the Roman Forum, my mom and I's feet were finally starting to hurt, and we decided to head back to our Airbnb. However, when we went to leave, we realized we were actually fenced in. Remember how I mentioned the roads were blocked off and I saw some cyclists later in the day? Turns out we were trapped in the Forum by the Giro d'Italia, one of the largest cycling races in the world. I wasn't able to get a video because just as we made it to the barricade, the end of the cyclists came speeding through and the race was over. But I was able to snap this photo of some of the cyclists as we were leaving. I'm glad we spent so long in the Forum, because had we left earlier, we would have been stuck sitting on the sidewalk waiting for the fence to open and let us out. Gladly, we only waited maybe 10 minutes before we were able to leave. We also stopped at a church on the way, because of course we did. I already mentioned my love for ornate ceilings, and I mean, look at this ceiling! There's also this gorgeous mosaic of Mary on the side of the building, which was a really nice touch. Hiya! I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. We're on our way out of Rome and decided to take a second stop in Santa Maria Maggiore, this time without the President of North Macedonia. I realized in my first episode about this place, I was so focused on seeing the President of North Macedonia that I forgot to mention why this place mattered so much to Levi. In his travel journal, Levi says, quote, "I completed the required visits for the pilgrimage. There were 3 visits to St. Peter's, St. John Lateran, Santa Maria Maggiore, and 1 to the Basilica of St. Paul." End quote. The pilgrimage he refers to is the Jubilee, a Catholic tradition that occurs every 25 years with few exceptions. Pilgrims will come to Rome to walk through the holy doors of the 4 major basilicas in Rome. These doors are only open in the Jubilee years, which we unfortunately just missed. Despite when I'm posting these videos, we actually took this trip back in 2024. Hopefully I'll be back in 2050 for the next Jubilee. Hiya! I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. We just left Rome to make our way to the next town on our trip, Florence. As we made our way to our Airbnb, I was gawking at the architecture and ornate designs of the buildings around us, including Santa Croce, which we would be back to visit later that afternoon. However, the townsfolk just walked along with their days. It's hard to imagine just how blind you could become to beauty when it's around you every day. Sitting on the rooftop terrace of our place, I wrote this. To the people of Florence, it must be a sad existence, where you are so overwhelmed by opulence that you lose the love of luster that surrounds you. Delicious food, delectable people, it's understandable to be in love with such a city. What a pity that you've grown to call it home. For once a place is home, you see the tourist in your heart ventures off to new horizons, new lands for fresh restarts. It must be a sad existence, that despite your lovely living, that living is too lovely to truly see its worth. Hiya! I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. Since Levi was doing a self-guided study of religious architecture, it only makes sense that we're going to the most famous basilica in Florence, Santa Croce. In his travel journal, Levi writes, quote, "These have been delightful days in Florence. Everywhere one goes, he sees signs of good architecture. St. Croce is a very interesting edifice and is a good example of the transition period, with Gothic windows appearing with beautiful stained glass." End quote. While Levi was focused on the architectural design, I'm focused on the history, especially with all these funerary monuments around. Several famous Italian historical figures are either buried or remembered here, including famous artists Michelangelo and Dante. There's also Galileo Galilei, but he's getting his own highlight tomorrow. Hiya! I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. Yesterday I mentioned going to Santa Croce, where several influential people across Italy's history are either buried or remembered. One person buried here is Galileo, who died while under house arrest due to his belief that the Earth rotated the sun instead of the other way around. This was considered heresy, though the Catholic Church has since revoked that and officially apologized for their wrongdoing in 1992. While taking photos of different memorial designs, I reflected on how macabre what I was doing really was. It's kind of ironic that a monument to one of the most influential scientists in world history is now social media fodder for folks like me. So, I wrote this. Dear Galileo, your work is truly worshipped. People today kneel at your grave, not to pray, but to take photos of your headstone. Hiya! I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. Today we're waiting in line for the Duomo, one of the most famous cathedrals in the world, and definitely the most famous in Florence. My oldest sister and I will be climbing the dome, while my mom will be climbing the adjacent bell tower. While we're waiting in line, a tourist stopped to compliment my sister's dress. This started us in conversation, where she revealed her name is Nina, and she's also an American visiting Florence. We tell Nina about our goal to recreate my great-grandfather Levi's photographs and walk where he once stood 100 years prior. During this conversation, we showed her a photo from Pompeii that we weren't able to recreate since we didn't have the time to add that stop to our trip's tight timeline. Her eyes lit up. She started furiously scrolling through her phone, and she smiles and turns her phone towards us. Yup! By pure happen chance, Nina had recreated a 100-year-old photograph, and we just happened to be standing next to each other in line to exchange them. Nina, if you're out there, you have no clue how much that memory means to me and my folks. This is easily one of the highlights of my trip. What am I even saying? This is the highlight of my trip. How do you even happen to do this? Hiya! I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. Today, my eldest sister and I are climbing the dome of the Duomo, while my mom is climbing the bell tower. As you climb up the dome, you get this spectacular view of the inside of it, and really get a good look at just how intricate the painting is. Just don't look down and you'll be fine. Especially because at the top, you get this view. I mean, just look at it. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I'm not just saying that because she's here, though that's definitely a plus. We could also see our mother waving to us from the top of the bell tower. It's a little hard to see, but there she is waving back at us. Hi, Mom! Once we're inside the Duomo, I am once again captivated by an ornate ceiling. Levi, however, disagrees with me. In his travel journal, he states that, quote, Italian churches seldom inspire one to devotion, although the cathedral here in Florence comes close to doing that. Father O'Malley and Vink think that the dome on the Duomo is the best yet, but I disappoint them in my disagreement. Hiya! I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. Today's episode is pretty short because I just want to highlight a cool history fact, and it involves this marble circle behind the Duomo. Back in 1601, a lightning bolt struck the gilded bronze ball and cross located at the apex of the Duomo structure. This caused it to fall off, roll down the cupola, and hit the square right where this marble marker now stands. Just imagine if you happened to be standing here at the time that happened. Oh, thank you. That's it. I wasn't kidding when I said today's episode is short. Hiya! I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. So, a fun fact about visiting the Duomo, when you get tickets to climb the dome and bell tower, you can also get tickets for the Baptistry, the basement, and the museum. The Baptistry is right across from the Duomo, though we unfortunately weren't able to go inside due to restoration crews. That's when we turned to go into the main part of the Duomo, where we got this spectacular view of its dome and then entered the basement. Down here is a preservation site for the centuries of history that the Duomo was built on top of, including these ornate tile floors. These mosaics are made up of geometric polychrome patterns, with the exception of this beautiful peacock design, and the work is attributed to North African craftsmen. Then there is the Duomo Museum, which is home to several impressive artifacts, including this statue gallery and Michelangelo's Last Pieta. Don't worry, my mom didn't touch the real thing. There's a duplicate so people can feel a sample of the Carrara marble. Here's the real one. Hiya! I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. Today we're walking through Florence, where we stopped in a literal alleyway for lunch. I get that's common in many European countries, but that is unheard of back in the United States. We continued making our way around town, walking fast, faces past, and we're homebound when we walk through Ponte Vecchio, where you can see a recreation of Michelangelo's David. Just past here is Ponte Vecchio, which Levi photographed back in 1926. It is the oldest bridge in Florence and is famous for the shops that line its walkway, especially goldsmiths and jewelers. It is also the only bridge that wasn't destroyed when the Germans were fleeing the city in the final days of World War II. In this photo, you can see the Uffizi Gallery. We started making our way there, passing this wild-looking statue, these cool snake door handles, an Ouroboros, and a shrine to the Virgin Mary called a Madonnelle. Join me tomorrow as we walk through the Uffizi Gallery in Florence. Hiya! I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. Yesterday, we walked the scenic route from the Duomo to the Uffizi Gallery, and here is our reward, some of the most famous Renaissance paintings in the world. You may recognize the Birth of Venus by Botticelli, the Head of Medusa by Caravaggio, or the famous Blue Hues of Marc Chagall. But there are some lesser-known paintings that are absolutely gorgeous, including the Martyrdom of St. Sebastian, Susanna and the Elders, and this painting in the ceiling that was my sister's favorite from this whole trip. There's also this gorgeous statue, which my sister had me try to pose like the seahorse, and honestly, I think I did a great impression. We had lunch on the terrace, which gives us this spectacular view of the clock tower, and got some great photos of Ponte Vecchio at sunset through the windows of the gallery. The exhibit ends with one of my favorite paintings in the world, which is getting its own video tomorrow. Hiya! I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. Today I want to talk about one of my favorite paintings in the Uffizi Gallery, and a fair warning, this one is quite gory. Judith slaying Holofernes was painted by Artemisia Gentileschi, one of the lesser-known greats of the Italian Renaissance. What I love most about this painting is that many other artists depict Saint Judith beheading the Assyrian general who was laying siege on her town, and they make her look dainty and feminine. But not Gentileschi, she shows Judith in all her glory, committing a gruesome act of murder to save her people. And for that act, she is recognized as a saint by Catholics. Despite breaking one of the 10 commandments established by Moses on Mount Sinai, she is still considered a saint. And that's where this poem came from. To the saint with a past. If anyone can see the goodness in me, then it would be you. Please confirm my suspicions that I am like you once were. A sinner with a future. Hiya! I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. It's officially our last day in Florence, so it's time to say goodbye to the Duomo and hello to the Leaning Tower of Pisa. We have several photos to recreate here, the first of which requires us to climb that. Remember my fear of heights? Yeah.
And my fear of heights doesn't mean.
Imagine being up here 100 years ago with nothing but this flimsy little railing. Now it's much more secure with this tall fence that still enables us to get spectacular views like this. Plus, there's this great view of the cathedral that is just to die for. And I can say that because I legit felt like I was going to die. There's also this bell, which, if it were to swing, would cause the tower to shake. That's great. That's just wonderful. Look, we recreated the photo! Yay! Can we get down now, please? Hiya! I'm Margo, and I'm recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe 100 years later. Yesterday, we recreated the photos from the top of the Leaning Tower, but gladly, we are now on solid ground and can focus on the cathedral and baptistry. Levi took this photo of the baptistry 100 years ago, but the only thing that's changed are the people walking around it. This is much the same for the cathedral. Despite it being 100 years, the photo is nearly identical, which is really cool to see. Then there's inside the cathedral, which Levi says is, quote, too much of an art museum, but is very beautiful, end quote. I agree with the beautiful part, just look at this view. And the ceiling! You know me and ceilings. Hiya! I'm Margo, and I'm taking a break from recreating my great-grandfather's travels through Europe. Hey, this might be a trip to follow his footsteps, but that doesn't mean we can't add our own stops along the way. So we got into the train from Pisa to our next destination, passing Carrara and getting this spectacular view of its famous mountains of marble. Then we arrived in Riomaggiore, one of the towns that makes up Cinque Terre, or Five Lands. We got here just in time to catch sunset and enjoy some rosé, but the next morning, we were up and at 'em to explore what this town had to offer. We hiked around the village, walking close to the coast and getting some gorgeous shots of where the water meets these rocky cliff faces. There's also this beautiful waterfall oasis towards the back of the village, and several great opportunities to get some cute family photos. While Levi didn't visit here, I bet he would have enjoyed coming by the Church of St. John the Baptist. This combination of neo-Gothic architecture with the stark white Carrara marble is absolutely beautiful, and the interior is much simpler than the ornate work we saw in Rome, Florence, and Pisa. After a delicious meal enjoying some seafood and wine, we headed back to our Airbnb before our big day tomorrow, visiting the other 4 towns of Cinque Terre. Hiya! I'm Margo, and today I'm partaking in something quite pertinent in my great-grandfather's time. Alcohol. Specifically rosé, which is my vice of choice after a good German Riesling. In 1925, the United States was under prohibition, aka no alcohol. While people didn't really follow this rule, it was very important to Chloe Wells, a Protestant that was against the ingestion of alcohol on religious grounds. My great-grandfather Levi was a Catholic, and if you know anything about Catholics, we like our wine. It's literally part of our religious ceremonies. I mean, what did you expect? Anyways, I've always stayed away from alcohol. I mean, I've tried a thing or two. I even did a wine tasting while studying abroad in Germany, but I'd never been drunk before. Until Riomaggiore. This poem is short because, yes, I wrote it while being a giggly mess. But it says, "Dear wine, from the Rhone to the Rhine, I have tasted your beauty, and I finally understand why people are alcoholics." Hiya! I'm Margo, and we are spending today hitting the other 4 towns of Cinque Terre. But first, we have quite the hike ahead of us. While you can take the train between all 5 towns, we wanted to hike to at least one of them. So we plan to take the shortest path as to not push ourselves too hard. Starting in Riomaggiore, we began our climb, which features these gorgeous views of the coastline. The terrain is not for the faint of heart. There are parts where you are climbing with just your hands and feet to get up the incline. But every part of the journey, the views cannot be beat. The higher up the mountain you go, you start to see more of the 5 towns and just how close all of them are clustered together. But what goes up must come down, and it is just as rough as it was going up. Here you see Manarola, but to get there, you have to do climbs like this, which had my legs trembling by the end despite walking 20,000 steps a day for the past week at this point. But we did it! We made it! Now to actually explore the village we've spent all morning hiking to. Hiya! I'm Margo, and today we are actually exploring Manarola after the killer hike I talked about yesterday. Manarola is breathtaking, with this swooping coastline that can be seen from a nearby walking path. We then took the train to Monterosso, the furthest town in Cinque Terre, and is famous for its sandy beaches. On the adjacent hill is their church, which is surrounded by several little shrines, including a statue to St. Francis of Assisi, a shrine to St. Martha, and even a Pieta statue. Next, we took the train to Vernazza, which has this protective cove for fishing boats. There's also a historic castle that I recommend checking out if you want to get some great views of the town and take some cute selfies while you're up there. At this point, we split. My eldest sister decided to hike to the next town, Corniglia, while my mom and I would take the train to see her when she gets there. While she was hiking this, we were gawking at just how large the lemons are and watching some local performers. Turns out we still had a hike ahead of us because we had this long staircase to go down in order to get to our train. But we made it back just in time to catch sunset from the roof of our Airbnb. Hiya! I'm Margo, and while I have a ton of gorgeous photos and videos of Cinque Terre, there is one detail I wasn't able to properly capture with my camera: the unique architecture of Manarola. While Riomaggiore got its name from being built on top of a river, that architectural feat is much more obvious in Manarola, the next town north. There are literal grates in the road where you can hear the water rushing below you under the town. It's insane. When we stopped for lunch, I took the chance to write a letter based on this view. To the city built upon a river. Your roadways may see 1,000 feet at the peak of tourist season. But do you miss the lands you roamed before this pavement's treason? Can you hear the river roar concealed beneath small grates? Perhaps it too wishes to flow freely through floodgates. Hiya, I'm Margo, and we are finally leaving Italy, saying goodbye to Riomaggiore and its adorable boats. And hello to... wait, this wasn't on our schedule. Turns out we had about 2 hours to kill while waiting for our next train in Genoa, so we made our way to the Basilica della Santissima Annunziata. While most of the holy places we had visited thus far had ornate paintings depicting scenes from the Bible, this basilica did something unique and made ornate dioramas of the scenes. I fell absolutely in love with these, especially for their unique ability to add contrast through the use of literal shadows rather than ones that are normally just painted on. Also, this wouldn't be one of my videos if there wasn't a highlight of an ornate ceiling. This may be the most ornate one we've seen, and that's even comparing it to St. Peter's Basilica back in Vatican City. My mom's favorite part was these photographs that were preserved near the front of the basilica, showing just how much destruction the structure had suffered during World War II. She couldn't help herself and went to recreate a few of the shots. Honestly, pretty fitting considering the original mission for this trip.